When it comes to reviewing games, we normally leave it to the experts. However, there's been a few times where a game speaks to us so strongly that we have no choice but to review it. And you gotta understand, guys, games, they fall within the spectrum, right? Some are shite, some are just mid, and a few are amazing. Palworld is one of those amazing games. Now, unfortunately, it has had great success. And I say that unfortunately because when you have a game have this much success this fast, people are gonna come after you. Today, guys, we're gonna completely review Palworld from start to finish. We're gonna talk about the future of this game because yes, this is an ever-evolving world. But we also need to talk about the controversy. From Pokemon and Nintendo claiming that Palworld is literally copying their homework, the developers coming out stating that the whole game was created by AI. These are the things, unfortunately, that go hand in hand with your game absolutely blowing up. Now, to give you a rundown of what Palworld is, a lot of people said that it's Pokemon with guns, an association that I'm sure Japanese developer pocketpair does not want right now, considering Pokemon and Nintendo are investigating. But if I was to give you a rundown of what this game is, that's kind of what it is, guys. It's Pokemon, but with guns. Or as Mr. Fruit says, it's Pokemon if America made it. Now, the reality is, though, the only other game to possess this gameplay formula that I have played over the years is Ark. Ark did it with dinos. It's a survival game. It has base building. This is like a more refined, cutesy version of what Ark presented. But that's the goal of this game, to go out in the world, pick up a stick, beat the piss out of pals, enslave them by capturing them with a pal ball, and put them to work for the rest of their days. Oh, and if they talk back, you have a butcher knife where you can actually take that pal and execute him in front of everyone. Did I say this game was cute? Don't worry, the developers are kind enough to blur it out when you do it. But that is essentially what this game is. Go out, capture pals, put them to work, get stronger, level up, make your base bigger, go out, capture more pals, and then next thing you know it, you have multiple bases, all designed intentionally to fuel your endeavors. Now, why are we doing this? Because this seems to be a question that people ask when they come out of stream. Like, Cross, what's the point of this game? Such a philosophical question. But this is also where the rub comes in, because what's the point of Pokemon? To catch them all. And honestly, guys, that's really the point of Palworld, is to catch everything. Because there's something addicting about trying to catch that big bad pal and not being able to, for whatever reason. Whether that pal completely messes you and all your pals up, or perhaps your pal balls aren't leveled up enough. There's something addicting about finally having the ability to capture that super powerful pal. And then you take that pal and you say, hey, yeah, you who's been pooping on me now for the past week as I've leveled up trying to get strong enough to take you on. Yeah, you're gonna cook berries for the next 6 months in this same location. And you're allowed to eat only 3 of them per day. You get this one straw pal bed that lays on the ground, and you gotta share a hot tub with 12 other pals. Guys, don't ask me why this is addicting. It just is. You see, it takes a formula that may have existed in other games, but it says, hey, you're not just throwing your pal out there to fight, you're fighting with them. Matter of fact, you're fighting while riding them or flying on them. Oh, you see that flame pal there? You want to pick him up and turn him into a flame turret? Do it! You see, Pokemon never presented these things to me, which is why I personally don't believe a good Pokemon game has come out since the early 2000s. But that's just my opinion. Palworld has given us something beautiful, something I hope continues to grow over the years. And if done correctly, this game is going to be on the level of Minecraft. Folks are already buying up servers. They're investing in worlds. They are having the time of their lives playing this game. And considering the roadmap that Palworld has presented to us, the developers here are not slowing down. Guys, this roadmap really hammers in the reason why we think Palworld has seen so much success. Its ability to draw in so many different kinds of gamers. With the devs planning on adding PvP to the game, raid bosses for in-game, PvP for pals, with something called Pal Arena, all on top of a game already so flush with other aspects of popular genres. This isn't just a reskin Pokemon game, or even just Pokemon with guns, for that matter. There's a lot more here that caters to the appetites of a wide array of people. Just in its early access version, you've got combat, bosses, player leveling, stats, loot, and rare lucky pals. That's right, guys, rare lucky pals. I've been playing for nearly 60 hours, and I've only come across 2, and you gotta capture them, because if they kill you, or they get away, then that's it, man. But then you add in raid bosses from the roadmap, and you've got a game that speaks to an action RPG, looter, and MMO fans. The scope here kind of reminds me of Fortnite back in the day, where it's like, okay, what do we want to be? Yeah, at one time, they were just a battle royale. But dude, Fortnite literally does everything. Palworld has the ability here to appeal to a lot of different fans, to draw in all types of gamers, and that's a beautiful thing. You've got creature collecting with over 100 pals to find and collect, all of which have their own stats and traits that can vary even within the same type. You can give them new abilities, you can ride them, you can explore with them, you can breed them, hatch them, level them up over time, and then take them with you to tap tackle tougher pals to then add to your collection. And guys, it gets even deeper than that. If you come across a lucky pal, you can gain the lucky trait. And then when you breed that lucky pal, you can pass that lucky trait on to other pals. For my Destiny fans, this is literally God roll pals, or in this case, pal crafting, with the ability to take certain attributes that have rolled on previous pals and pass them on to the next. And look, don't even get me started on the consolidation of pals and literally raising their tiers for individual pals themselves. There's so many ways to take a simple little pal and amp them the hell up. Palworld has a huge world to explore, the ruins, mountains, and islands beckoning for you to go to them the moment you step into the game. And visually, it looks good. Very reminiscent of like Genshin Impact's world. And those same feelings and vibes while exploring Genshin are actually present here in Palworld. It's just a calm world to relax and wander around it. But with flying mounts, you could take to the sky and discover those high peaks that you would struggle to reach on foot. Now, there are multiple biomes, as well as chests, wandering merchants to buy and sell from, and yes, you can capture the merchants. If you're like, yo, I want that merchant in my base to work for me, go right ahead, man. Capture away. But I would say for my beginners, you're probably gonna spend majority of your time catching new pals and just exploring. And that's the beautiful thing here, because you're going through and you're marking dungeons and chests on the map and a number of different bosses. Hell, I ran up on a level 50 isekai player, like straight up out of an anime here. Hands me a slice of pizza. I thought I could take him, and dude, he shredded me. I had to run for my life. It's little things like this that makes Palworld stand out. But all around, guys, from exploration to finding new loot to finding new pals to capturing those pals, it's an addicting gameplay loop. Then we also have the survival aspects with base building, cooking, eating, resource management, crafting gear, all of this which helps you survive tougher challenges or give you access to even more crafting options. And you have to do this stuff. Certain terrains that are really hot or really cold will require you to have the right set of gear. If you don't got it, you'll die. And there's seemingly endless amount of technology and items that you can unlock, which adds more and more mechanics to the game as your player level continues to increase. And here's the thing, that next thing I unlock, that next thing I obtain, I find use for it. Sure, you can run around with a club the entire game, but you're gonna find you need a gun eventually, or a crossbow. The game is gonna point you in a direction that says, hey, you gotta get good. You need that stronger pal. You need that stronger set of weapons. You need better armor. Now, in the aspect of like crafting your base, location is everything. Not only do you need a good location that's big enough for all your pals, but you want a location that's accessible to certain resources. I have an entire base devoted to collecting ore. That's it. Everything here is designed to collect ore, and that's all these guys do every single day, which means my job is to go out and find the best miners possible. One of the best pals you can have in your base is Anubis. Unfortunately, the only Anubis on the map that you can get out in the wild is level 47, which I definitely cannot take. But then we cross-reference our breed guide. Oh, we can make a baby Anubis with different roles, of which we did. One cake, the right combination of pals, some hanky-panky time, and looky there, guys, we have an egg which will hatch us an Anubis, who essentially is like the equivalent of 10 pals in one, at least for my base. And to take it a step further, again, the passives on the pals make a huge difference. Depending on what they roll with, they can be substantially better. God roll pals is a real thing here, but ultimately, the goal is to make multiple bases that are all autonomous, teams that work in and out with each other, crafting, farming, producing, with you stopping in every now and then to reap the rewards. The only issue with all of this is, yes, those bases will be attacked, and if attacked by a strong enough party, they will be wiped out, which is why there's an entire category within our technology that requires us to fortify this base. Now, as far as I know, raiding bases is random, and it's random from a variety of different ads, but they seem to level up with you, so they get tougher and tougher. And if you got a lot of low-level pals just running around, they'll get wiped. If you're concerned about your chickpea defending your base, give them a turret. It's things like this, man, that really pulls me in and keeps me addicted to this game. Palworld successfully brings gamers from all walks of life into its world, giving you a plethora of reasons to stay, no matter what type of player you are or what you're into, giving you progression that feels meaningful across each of its genre-defining aspects. Yes, there's bugs here and there. There's definitely some jank. The game's not perfect, and everything is ultimately going to be decided on how well the developers continue to fuel this world and how well they continue to scale something like in-game. But considering that this game costs $27, you will get many dozens of hours of very enjoyable gameplay. And there are no microtransactions here, guys. $27, you got the game, early access, with the ability to spend many hours playing it. Fellas, it's a great deal. Now, with all that being said, let's jump back to real life for a second to go over the controversies, because that is a sticky point right now for Palworld. First up, before we get into this, we need to talk about the origins of pocketpair, which is the developer of Palworld. The company was founded in 2015, and they've actually self-published 4 games, that being Over Dungeon, Craftopia, AI Art Imposter, and and now Palworld. Now they actually have a 5th game in the works titled Nevergrave. But their CEO, Takuro Mizobi, interestingly enough, doesn't really have a history of game design. On pocketpair's website, his profile reads, in 2010, he did some DS development at a Nintendo game seminar and worked for JP Morgan Securities and founded a company named Resupress Inc. and released the website stories.jp. He also founded virtual currency exchange CoinCheck, and as we said in 2015, he founded pocketpair. Now, a blog written by Mizobi just days before Palworld's release outlines how Palworld was created in a way that was far removed from proper game development, and how it was truly a miracle that Palworld even released. Now, while developing Palworld, Mizobi had no sense of budget management. They decided to judge based on the reaction to their first trailer release, and if that reaction was bad, they would determine if Palworld was not worth the budget to continue development. But initial reactions were positive, so he decided it was worth making it and spending the money on it. Initially, Mizobi had wanted the game to release after 1 year of development, but then realized the scale of the game was growing drastically, and that would not be possible. He then decided to keep developing the game, hiring more workers, and would worry about the budget later. In the end, almost all of the company's money was gone. The man's literally gambling on this one horse right here. And Mizobi came out and said he doesn't even know how much money it costs and doesn't want to see it, but calculates it to be somewhere around 1 billion yen, which is roughly $6.7 million. Well, guys, based on how many copies have been sold, Mizobi got his money back and much more. Now, Palworld itself actually made some pretty massive jumps. Originally, it was being made in Unity, and then they shifted it to Unreal Engine 4. This meant that all their existing code had been discarded, and at the time, not a single person in the company had experience with Unreal Engine 4. They ended up making the switch when an engineer named Matsutani had contacted Mizobi saying that their previous games, Over Dungeon and Craftopia, were interesting, and they had 10 years of experience and would like to make a game with him. Now, during their initial meeting, it was clear he had a lot of technical knowledge, but all his experience was in Unreal Engine 4 and not in Unity. In the end, Mizobi actually trusted him and decided to make the jump to Unreal Engine 4 in order to bring him on board as their lead engineer. Guys, this must have been a hell of a meeting, right? Like, can you imagine a studio going, listen, I just got out of this 30-minute meeting with this guy. We're ditching our engine. We're going Unreal. Sorry for all of you that don't know how to do anything in Unreal. Now, this led to them hiring more than 5 engineers, though, all who didn't have any experience with Unreal Engine and would learn through Palworld. And their learning entrusted with Matsunani, killing this guy's name, by the way. Now, at the beginning, no one within the company had experience in motion, and it took Mizobi a month to create one PAL. Previously, their 3D models and even motion used were assets they purchased from Unity, and this was the first time creating 3D models from scratch in-house. Their goal was to have 100 PALs, each with their own unique models and motion skeletons, which means they couldn't simply just copy and paste motion elements like they did in the past. Eventually, though, they came into contact with a veteran motion designer named Mr. Adachi, who was hired as a contract worker. He was taken aback at first by how they were developing their motion so far, and how they didn't even have a proper motion rig. Mr. Adachi made their system for motion design and even cleaned up their file management, which was also a mess. Now, the artist who ended up designing all of the PALs was initially rejected. Mizobi knew they had talent, but their illustrations were a bit too unique and worried it would be a mismatch. After 3 months later, the artist applied again and explained that they were a recent graduate who had applied to nearly 100 companies but was rejected by all of them. But Mizobi calls her a genius and an incredibly fast worker and credits her as part of the success, and stated that they would not have been able to make the PAL designs without her. It's crazy to me that somebody that can be turned away by nearly 100 companies was picked up by Mizobi and was seen for her talent, albeit not initially, but eventually. Now, saying that Palworld is about literally running around and crafting weapons to shoot alongside your pals, you would think that pocketpair had experience with gun mechanics. Actually, no. No one at pocketpair had any experience with first-person shooters or gun mechanics. And it actually took Mizobi literally just skimming through Twitter before he found someone who was just making videos of weapons reloading. Now, this person didn't even work in the game industry, didn't have any professional experience, and was solely making animations as a hobby while working part-time at a convenience store. Mizobi brought him on board to the team part-time and had him working remotely before eventually bringing him on as a full-time employee. This guy went beyond just gun animations. He would also work on character motion, camera work, sound design, and more. Fellas, you can't tell me this is not a Cinderella story. It truly is. These are folks that were rejected from numerous other companies. Folks that didn't even have a foot in this industry whatsoever. And a boss like Mizobi who put all his money into this, putting pocketpair in a sink or swim scenario. And look, Palworld could have easily come out in flops. We could have been talking about the next day before situation, where the studio literally closed down a week later. Granted, I truly believe they were just outright scamming, but I gotta respect Mizobi and this studio, which takes us to the controversies, that being AI and plagiarism. You remember I said a second ago, one of the clearest indications that you have actually struck gold is when everybody is truly trying to tear you down. Well, this has been going on for video games for quite some time. We saw it with Fortnite and the massive success it had initially, and suddenly there's lawsuits left and right. Palworld is no different here. There's been multiple claims of the developers using AI to help create game, and even claims that Palworld plagiarized Pokemon's designs for their own pals. Now, I need to be clear here. These are alleged claims, and at the time of making this video, there is no definitive proof either way, but Nintendo and Pokemon Company have released a statement regarding Palworld. Quote, "We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game release in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future." Now, it's no surprise Nintendo may be looking into Palworld. Look, man, they're known to be aggressive when it comes to defending their IPs. Hell, even in the past, when we would make videos that involved Nintendo games, we would get copyright struck. Nintendo is extremely serious about this. But I need to still be clear here. These are alleged claims. And look, fast forward 6 months from now, maybe something comes out where it's like, yo, Palworld literally copied everything from Pokemon, changed some color schemes up, and boom, that was it. Yes, I know the game has similar mechanics to Pokemon, but outside of like the Pal Balls and the Pals themselves, dude, the mechanics here are more like Arc than anything else. That's just my opinion though. Then we have the AI discussion. This blew up last week, and there were a ton of tweets discussing AI. Firstly, there was a tweet from December 2021 showing off AI-generated Pokemon, and another showing real Pokemon, with Mizobi saying, "The AI has evolved so much that I can no longer tell which one is a Pokemon." This has been taken out of context by a ton of people. Obviously, people are jumping to conclusions that Mizobi used AI himself to make these fake Pokemon models in Palworld, when in reality, this was taken from a BuzzFeed quiz. There's more though. In November 2022, we see Mizobi talking about the possibility of AI being used to get around copyright laws. And in April 2023, he talked about potential seeing true AI powering games on GPT-4. And in May of 2023, he promotes pocketpair's Game AI Art Imposter. Poor choice of a game title, right? Now, this is a party game where you are a progressive artist using AI to generate images. But this is not helping his case. Granted though, none of this is proof that AI was used. And in a blog post from CEO Takuro Mizobi, before the game was even released, he shared a story of an artist they had hired who designed almost all of their pals. That being that artist we just talked about, that was rejected from 100 different studios. Mizobi went on to say that she is one of the 6 miracles that helped Palworld succeed. And people also forget that Palworld didn't just come out of nowhere. It was first revealed back in June 2021. So the game has been in development easily for 3+ years. And no, AI, at least to my knowledge, wasn't even a tool back then. And if it was, it's not nearly as powerful as it has been over the past year. On top of that, back in the original 2021 trailer, we see some of those same pals. So look, I'm not saying that AI wasn't used at all in the development of Palworld. The fact that Steam also has a policy stating that AI content must be disclosed if used, when you go look at Palworld, there's nothing here stating anything about AI. Now, I do believe that AI, unfortunately, is going to become a reality whether you want it or not. And that's an entirely different topic for another day. But so far, at least from our research, I'm not seeing where AI was used in the development of Palworld. Yes, we could talk about the similarities between certain Pokemon and certain pals. But dude, where does it stop? How many other games could we point to, or other shows we could point to and say, hey, look at the similarities here? You can go even further and say that Pokemon's original design was inspiration from Dragon Quest. I think in this case, it's not plagiarism, but instead inspiration. Now, I know there's a Twitter user by the name of Biofrog who started posting images and videos comparing Pokemon and PAL creatures, meshing them and overlaying them on top of each other, placing them side by side. And yeah, some of the results are interesting, but I don't know, guys. I think that inspiration definitely played a role, but will it hold up in court? Maybe. This is all going to be taking place in Japan, and Nintendo and Pokemon have a lot of pull. What's so unfortunate about this is that I would rather Pocket Pair completely focus on growing Palworld. They've already put out their roadmap. They've got raids on the horizon. I cannot wait to play these things. But when you get bogged down by litigation, which is the purpose of this, it derails things. And that's what's so unfortunate right here. I will say though, out of everything, these mesh similarities are the most damning. VGC reported on this and stated that they spoke with 2 experienced AAA game artists about whether or not these model comparisons are evidence enough for a plagiarism case against Pocket Pair. And this is what the artist had to say. You cannot in any way accidentally get the same proportions on multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least, tracing them meticulously first. I would stand in court to testify as an expert on this. They go on to say further, to give you an idea of how impossible this is, sometimes we have to copy one mesh to another when we make sequel sequels to games. For example, redrawing an NPC from one game to another, and even when we work those old models, they only sometimes match this closely due to rigging changes that might need to happen. There have been times where dozens of artists are given the same concept art to create a 3D model. For example, during art tests for jobs, I've seen 30 artists try to make the same horse using the exact schematics. None were as close to each other as these Palworld models are to Pokemon models. None. The silhouettes and proportions here are near perfect matches. The wireframe meshes look different, so they're not the same models, but it's so close that they may have built over the top of the Pokemon models and made a few changes so they weren't exactly the same. When does heavily inspired become a blatant copy? It's much easier to take successful style and tweak it slightly than it is to come up with a new, cohesive style, right? I wouldn't be comfortable passing this off as my work. It's just too close in many places. Now, VGC also spoke with David Hansel, an intellectual property and digital media lawyer, who stated, "It's down to Nintendo to absolutely prove copy, not merely taking influence. It's got to be obvious copy. You look at one picture and you look at the other alongside it. The industry would have come to an end years ago if you weren't allowed to take influence. You can't have a monopoly on a certain style of artwork. It literally has to be copying." The Pokemon Company will be looking for a smoking gun, and these 3D models videos could be gold dust for the lawyers because they're not just thematically similar. From what those videos show, it could be extremely compelling evidence of copying. If those are original Pokemon models shown in those videos, then Nintendo should be home and dry in terms of demonstrating copying. That could be a smoking gun. Now, this isn't the first time pocketpair and the word copying have been used in the same sentence either. One of the first games, called Craftopia, was accused of copying assets and styles of Breath of the Wild back in 2021. Even their next game that is currently in development looks very similar to that of Hollow Knight. Whether these games are all knockoffs or heavily inspired, that's completely fine and okay, unless they are literally stealing, plagiarizing, or using AI, which we don't have definitive proof yet. The real issue with all of this is that it's hearsay. Yes, the PAL Pokemon meshes look somewhat exact, and if that's almost impossible to have happen, it's a high chance it's just literal copy assets. The other question is, how can we blatantly trust the Twitter account that's posting these comparisons? We can't. And at the end of the day, it's up to the Pokemon Company to do their due diligence and really look into Palworld to see if they can find any solid concrete proof that pocketpair has plagiarized. Considering how aggressive Nintendo usually is in terms of protecting their copyright, and the fact that the game was announced nearly 3 years ago, and they've been posting trailers for their pals for several months, my question to you is, why didn't Nintendo say anything before now? Why all of a sudden is Nintendo and Pokemon addressing these concerns? It's probably due to the fact that Palworld has wildly succeeded, and for the first time, maybe ever, Pokemon is under threat. From Mizobi, though, on Twitter, he has stated that currently we are receiving slanderous comments against our artists, and we're seeing tweets that appear to be death threats. I have received a variety of opinions regarding Palworld, but all productions related to Palworld are supervised by multiple people, including myself, and I am responsible for their production. I would appreciate it if you would refrain from slandering the artists involved in Palworld. We'll see what shakes out with all of this, guys. What I do know is that this is not good for the company, and hopefully it doesn't derail things for the future of the game. I love everything that Palworld is looking to jump on. They're adding PvP, they're adding raid bosses, a Pal Arena, which is PvP for pals, Steam and Xbox crossplay, new islands, new pals, new bosses. Hopefully they get it to every single platform, although Nintendo probably would never let that happen, at least not to the Switch. But if it can get onto PlayStation, that would be incredible. Keep in mind, the amount of sales you've seen doesn't even include PlayStation. And when you add them into this, my lord, this game is really going to blow up. Fellas, I thoroughly enjoy Palworld. Yes, it's got a lot of controversy around it, but I can't help myself from waking up and wanting to jump right back into this game. There's so many addicting things about it. I've recently discovered pal breeding, and I've got these spreadsheets on how to combine different pals and breed them to make a super pal. And you know what kind of gamer I am. I like looters. I like first-person shooters. Palworld presented something to me that I never thought I would enjoy. And despite all the controversies, I can't help but want more of this game. I hope it continues to grow and continues to do better. I hope whatever goes on litigation-wise, it doesn't derail from the future that Palworld could possibly give us. Mizobi and pocketpair have a winning formula with this game. This is a generation-defining IP, and they need to go all in on it. And if worse comes to worse, if Nintendo is like, listen, we're gonna drag you through court literally for years, in my opinion, I would pay whatever settlement necessary to get out of this situation and to get focused on continuing making Palworld an amazing game. Nintendo and Pokemon know they're under threat, and for good reason. They've given us a game and a formula that leaves us no desire to ever want to return to a Pokemon game again. Just my thoughts, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.